Test, test, test. Alright, my name's Eve, and I am drawing in Clip Studio tonight. Just gonna work on B4 size horizontal. And no, I forgot to grab my water. I'm gonna run and grab it real quick because I don't want to get a dry throat and start coughing in the middle of this or something. So I'm just gonna write this, and I will be back in about 2 shakes. Alright, I'm back. Sorry for the interruption. Just gonna delete that out. Open some reference. My other monitor. Let's see here. There we go. You know who I want to draw tonight? I want to draw one of the other Rune Factory 5 characters. So I'm just going to grab some reference real quick. Let's start with... let's draw Reinhard. I like him. He looks pretty cool. Gonna save him in my folder real quick. I think next time I'll try and plan out ahead of time what I'm going to draw and then collect the reference ahead of time. I do apologize for the delay. It's been a little bit chaotic in my house today. Our little toddler was kind of on a chaos bender today. So, definitely a little bit hard to keep things organized and prepared in that context. Okay, so just going to grab a little snip of this dude. Go here, close that one. Marquee select, copy, paste, whoops. Let's see, I'm still trying to use Photoshop shortcuts in here. One of these days I'll be used to this software enough I can start picking my own shortcuts and feel confident about it. Okay. Whoa, I just learned how to copy things accidentally. Just kind of blow him up a little bit. Put him over here in the lower left. Oop, nope, that's not it. I swear last time when I was doing this, I figured out some way of auto-selecting a different layer, but what was that? Certainly wasn't Alt or Control, because that appears to just be copying things. I wonder what that was. I really need to learn the shortcuts in here better. I like learn them in the streams, and then I forget about them by the next time I stream, which is inefficient. Maybe I'll like look some up, take some notes, and review them before the streams. Alright, you know, I just realized I haven't announced the stream has started, so I'm gonna do that real quick. Just pop over to Twitter real quick. Okay. Hop over to my Discord. And then go to Tumblr. I might move the streams to 7:45. Might be a little bit easier to start on time. Be a little bit farther away from my little kiddo's bedtime. Okay, I think that's everything. I think we're ready to just kind of chill out and relax and draw. Grab my Pure Ref board, open that up. Close this window. Close that, close that. There you are. Alright. Cool. Now, what I remember from last time is I enjoyed sketching with the colored pencil tool. I thought that was alright. kind of feel it out for a minute here. Kind of like a little bit of transparency, you know? Been kind of art blocked lately, so hopefully just being on stream, being able to kind of relax, I'll be able to kind of shake that off and just enjoy this. Like, you'd think that streaming would be like the harder time to do that, because, you know, the idea of being observed and stuff. But sometimes I find it a little bit, I don't know, freeing somehow. It's like I'm just focused on this one thing, and that can just be really helpful. Well, now that control moving thing is working. I don't know why it wasn't working before. I guess I was right about remembering that it was control key. I'm not sure what was going on with that a minute ago. It wasn't working for me. I'm really wondering what this guy's like whole thing is gonna be in game, because Rune Factory has always had like really quirky characters. Like, they're really, for the most part, they're just super duper, I mean, compared to Harvest Moon, they're super free with that, you know? Like, definitely they, you know, they still kind of have that formulaic or tropey approach at times, and a lot of times they will have like one main like kind of shtick. You know, like, oh, it's the sleepy girl or whatever. But at the same time, they don't stop there. You know what I mean? Like, they have that as kind of like a general thing about the character, but then as you talk to them, when you see their events, it's like obvious that there's a little bit more depth there, and they are kind of like exploring the character a little bit in the game. Like, it's more than just this one thing. Okay, I'm a little bit too on the proportional model, and it's looking look way too young. So, I'm gonna back up here for a second. Maybe use my lasso tool. Just kind of start grabbing things and moving them around. Okay. Oh, there I go, pressing B again. Nope, that's not right either. Someday I'll get the hang of these shortcuts. Just been using Photoshop for so many years. It's hard to break those habits, you know? It's interesting, the portrait, or the concept art portrait of this character looks kind of like serious, you know? Kind of makes me wonder if he's gonna be like... No. Not really a levity type character, but I feel like in Rune Factory everybody is a joke of some kind. So, yeah. I kind of started to say it a minute ago, but I am really curious to know what's up with this dude. Like, what's he gonna be like in the game? Oops. Give him a little bit more of a jaw. Sometimes to kind of just mark it and be able to draw the shadow under the lower lip, I create this like oval shape when I draw the chin. But usually have to erase it out later, so sometimes I try to either do it really lightly or don't really mark it too obviously. I imagine when Rune Factory 5 comes out, I'm gonna want to draw these characters a lot. So, feels like it's a good time to kind of start getting used to them and establishing like kind of how I want to draw them when it comes to my style. I'm kind of like fine with the stylistic choice to, you know, see the eye and the eyebrow through the hair. But the one I can't really get behind is where the hair just stops at the eye line. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I find it kind of bizarre. Not really sure what I'm sort of looking at. Hello, Carby Light. Welcome. Glad to have you. Yes, we're drawing Rune Factory 5 husband. quite probably gonna split my file because Murakumo is I think my like top choice right now, but this guy also looks very promising. I'm like bothering to make sure the ear is visible and yet it's gonna be covered by the hair. That's art for you. But it helps to know where stuff is, even if it's gonna end up being covered. Yeah, I just feel like there's something up with this eye. I need to move it a little bit. Just kind of erase into there and then draw it again. Oops, I keep doing that. I'm gonna make the mouth a little smaller, maybe? Ugh. There we go. You know those memes that have been going around since that Studio Ghibli documentary aired and about art blocked Miyazaki, and that mood is real. It's always a thing, you know? I don't think I've ever really met an artist who was ever like 100% satisfied anyway. Like, I think it's just a constant state of being that we're like, well, I want to be better than this. It's definitely gonna take me a couple swings to like kind of figure out what I want his face to look like. My style is like a little bit interpretive, you know? Like, it's not one-to-one with the game concept art or the in-game art style, so it always takes a little bit to, you know, kind of establish, whoops, what that interpretation will be. Well, I accidentally drew on a reference layer. It's okay. We'll just select this thing. Cut and paste to new layer. Easy enough, easy enough. We can just move it over here. Or move it over there. Move it over there. Kind of get it out of the way for now. So I don't think that was as successful as I wanted it to be. I'm just gonna make a new layer and track it. There's something to be said for like the need to just like warm up a little bit. I definitely have like this sense of like needing to loosen up when I first start drawing for the day. And I haven't drawn yet today, which is unusual. Usually I do at least a little bit in the morning. So, kind of getting like an extra rusty me. Sometimes doing the profile will help. I feel like I remember the description of Reinhard in the information release thing, something about how he's like, they made a note of saying, or made a point of saying, that he doesn't really push anybody else to his own same ideology, which was interesting that they would go out of their way to say that. Kind of curious to know what the context will be for that in the game. His hair kind of makes his head look round, but he's got like, for Rune Factor, he's got like a fairly square jawline. So I definitely want to like incorporate that. Just gonna check my levels real quick. Yeah, that looks like the mic is reading. It seemed to when I tested it earlier, but sometimes I just feel a little bit paranoid about that. Try to find like an interpretation of the face that has something to it, you know, like something so it feels a little bit unique. I often feel like a lot of these, like in these styles, it can sometimes be like difficult to find that or like grasp onto it, you know, like a lot of times it feels like the faces of the characters themselves are so similar. And I've talked about this a little bit before on previous streams of just like, I understand and totally respect the, you know, the need for game developers to concentrate on making their characters readable at a distance. So this, I mean, I suppose it came first with anime, right? And I'm not really sure what the production reason there would be. Or really, if you go back farther, I suppose like this kind of style comes from like manga, right? So like, if you're talking about, you know, just black and white or like screen tones, I guess you'd need like pretty wackadoodle hair to to really identify the characters like at a glance, assuming that the rest of your style kind of like treats the actual like anatomy of characters pretty similarly. And obviously we have like examples to the contrary, the sort of ever-present example of One Piece where they have very unique character designs. So it is done from time to time, like having just drastically different. But I feel like there's a lot of stuff out there where they're and Rune Factory too, like the faces of the bachelors and bachelorettes are not drastically different from each other in features. Like if you drew them without their hair or their costumes, like as just sort of like dolls, they would look kind of like a sort of blank base of a character, and you wouldn't necessarily have the easiest time recognizing one from another, I feel like. So what I'd like to do is figure out something in a character's attitude, because that's part of the design, right? This is the sort of how does the visual design express the personality, and then sort of translate that through my own style and the sort of ways that I express personality in characters. So you're kind of seeing me problem solve that in and like suss it out in real time, which might not go perfectly. So there might be a lot of like, well, that didn't work and try again kind of thing. But that's art, you know? Like, there's always going to be stuff that doesn't click right away. And already I'm feeling like a little bit more confident about this. This first one over here just feels a little too generic in the corner that I moved it down to the lower right corner of this screen. I want to get something going that's a little bit more... Oh, there I go again with that brush. It's a little bit more its own kind of deal. Like, I want him to have this, I mean, like, granted, we don't really know his personality that well yet. All we really have to go on is these few screenshots, but the character design choices inform us a little bit, right? Like, sometimes you're talking about a character who is supposed to, like, visually lead you into thinking they are one thing, or, like, you know, kind of set your expectation only to sort of undermine that expectation later, and that's a pleasant thing. That can be really enjoyable as far as, you know, just finding out about the character and stuff like that. It's definitely an interesting way to go. But in this case, we don't have that information yet. We don't have the game yet. So I'm going to just basically lean into what they are visually showing me with the character design itself. And, you know, make a little bit of assumptions and just sort of start to get a feel for how I'm going to draw this character. And then when I am able to play the game, it might change because I'm going to learn new things about him and learn new things about the intention of the writers and the developers. And, you know, maybe it's not going to be what we thought it was, and that's okay. That'll be interesting. That'll be fun to find out. But for this moment, we're just going to go with the information we have right now, and that information, what I'm seeing here is that he's sort of like a... Well, he's kind of a literal white knight character right here. He's got the white clothing, and gold. White and gold are very, like, typically, you know, heroic, like paragon type colors. Like there's a lot of like media and cultural precedent for, you know, signaling nobility and purity with these color schemes. You know, he's got gold accents, he's got a little bit of elegant detail work in his costume. He looks like he could be the knight that serves the royal family or something like that. And the screenshots, like the character, animated character screenshot that I've got in the top left corner of my screen right now, you know, it shows him with this very, like, warm expression. You know, he has a relaxed, confident air about him, but he's like has a slight smile. It's like a somewhat gentle expression. And I think I'm seeing that he has a ponytail, which I did not notice before. So we better add that in. It's not super in your face, so I didn't really notice it right away. But we'll put that in there. And he's got the Rune Factory fluffy collar. I'm starting to realize that it was not just Bato that they gave this fluffy collar to. It's like the more Rune Factory characters I draw, the more I'm like, oh, they just put this on everybody, didn't they? They just love fluffy collars in their character design. And I'm for it. I'm not knocking it. I really enjoy drawing it. It's like that short fur has become like a really fun, relaxing thing for me to draw. So I do not mind. So he's got some like spikes on his shoulder. So there's a little bit of like a tiny bit of like aggression to his outfit, right? Like he's got these kind of spiky shoulders. So like they're messaging to us that he's like a figure of power, right? He's got status, like his clothing communicates status. It's got elements of gold in it. It's got like, you know, armor is definitely like in theory and in like, you know, the idea of world building, it's usually a status symbol. It's like, you know, valuable. It takes a lot of resources. It's difficult to construct, you know, requires expertise. So we're getting a sense that this dude has like some degree of status. And in Rune Factory previously, we often had the context for knights and, you know, sort of martial personas existing within like a hierarchy that goes up to the king, right? That's the context we've had so far in Rune Factory. So we could presume that him being a knight could potentially connect him to the royal family, or at least some kind of official Noradian military organization. We're just gonna get a little bit more costume stuff in here. Not gonna go too crazy with it, cause I really like drawing faces, and I really need to kind of incorporate more other stuff, but at this very moment, like, I've had a hectic day, and I just wanna kind of chill out, and drawing faces is my chill out zone, so that's what I'm gonna do right now. Okay, I'm liking this one a lot more, you know? I'm feeling like it's less generic. Oh, where'd it go? This one here. I'm just gonna scoot this way down in the corner. I'm not gonna delete it or get rid of it, because, you know, it was part of the journey, so we don't need to devalue it, but I do really like this second one we did here a lot better. So I'm gonna keep it visible as I like zoom in. I want it to still be in view, and I'm gonna try drawing him from another angle again. The profile thing kind of helped. Definitely feel like I have a slightly better sense of like what this guy's sort of facial proportions are. So let's make a new layer and do another one. Maybe if we get 2 or 3 going and they feel pretty good, then I'll start throwing some color in there. I've been trying to like suss out a sort of process within my visual style that is not, you know, fully rendered and still in color, so has like a lot of definition, but is not necessarily like, you know, fully painting everything, because I'd like to do a little bit more volume of work in a given month, and it's extremely difficult to put out a lot of volume when you're just kind of doing this in your scant, you know, free time. I work full time, I've got a young child. I don't have a ton of time to devote to drawing, not nearly as much as I would like, so trying to figure out, like, within the way I do things, within the way I draw, it would be really nice to have kind of a quick style, you know, a means to express an image without necessarily needing to drill down into every detail. And for whatever reason, this has been challenging for me to kind of like establish and practice. So it's a work in progress. I picked kind of a difficult perspective for this drawing, which might have been a questionable decision for this still figuring out stuff time period, but what the hey. It's always a good idea to push yourself a little bit, right? So I'm still kind of going with this, you know, warm, kind of neutral expression. It's interesting, it might have to do with the angle of the head, but the shape of his eyes is not totally consistent between these three references, and they are three different types of artwork. We got the animated cutscene artwork in the top left, and then below it we've got the in-game sprite, which I do try to, like, you know, lean pretty hard into the in-game sprite because I feel like it's sort of like the most, in a way, it's the most truthful representation of the character because it's what you're going to see while you play the game. It's the thing you're going to become really familiar with, you know, you're going to see it a billion times. So, like, that kind of feels to me like the most canonical image, but there is a lot of charm to the concept art because it's so rich that you know, it gets lost in the production needs of creating in-game sprites. It can't necessarily create that same effect very easily. So I also want to keep an eye on that concept art and, you know, bear in mind what it's telling me as well. I'm just drawing a guideline here for myself to observe for just a moment, and then I'm going to delete it out. You can do that, you know, when you're drawing. You can just have like a quick little check. Gauge where you're at, and if you've kind of like marked things in the proportion that you wanted. I'm going to give him a little bit more jaw. Still feeling like there's something about the eye area that's not working for me. Part of it is the size. This perspective makes it kind of tricky, but I am gonna reduce these a little bit. It took me a while to kind of lean into that, to embrace the idea of like, don't be afraid to make the eyes on your character small. Like, in some styles, especially like certain anime and manga styles, they really like lean into the huge, glassy, glittery eyes, and they're beautiful, don't get me wrong, I really enjoy those styles. But like, my own kind of personal art journey and what kind of feels right for me to make really involves like using the whole character or the whole drawing to express the emotion. So I'm not necessarily looking to stake so much on the eyes themselves in terms of the expression. I want the, you know, the pose and the angle of the head and, you know, the gesture, like even just like the line work. I want the whole image to be aligned with the expression or mood. So I don't need to make the eyes really large and like really drill into the details and shapes of the eyes and, you know, depend on those to express for the character, because the whole character is capable of doing that. And I find a lot of fulfillment in like involving the whole character in the expression. And again, you know, I like to go back to those production reasons because I think it's important not to disparage an art form just because it's not quite what you do. I don't have the production concerns of an animated feature. Like, I have the luxury of making each drawing, you know, it's just one image. It's not like belonging in a sequence. So I don't have to worry about like the cost. Cost of the image is just like my time, you know? Which, you know, I'm not saying not to take your time seriously because obviously you want to. But I'm just saying like you could understand why they would put a lot into the eyes and like lean really heavily on one feature because, you know, the cheaper you can make the animation, the more animation you can make, so. But I don't have to conform to that, so I have the freedom to explore different ways of expressing with a character's face, different things to emphasize, different things to rely on. One thing that's that I really bend when I draw Rune Factory characters is the eyebrows. Like, they tend to, like, their art style does tend to draw the eyebrows really similarly across virtually all the characters. They don't really play with that very much in that style. And that, to me, that feels like a missed opportunity. I feel like there's a lot of character that can be had. And there's a lot of, like, likeness you can explore, specifically in the eyebrows. The shape, the thickness, you know, where they tend to rest on the face when the person is relaxed. Like, how much do they emote with their brow? And I just, I really enjoy that. I find that to be like a fun area to work with, so I do tend to just give a Rune Factory character whatever brow I want, because they are, you know, super duper samey. So instead of just drawing them all similarly to each other, I just kind of invent whatever kind of feels right to me in expressing that character. And I feel like Reinhardt's gonna have like some amount of thickness to the brow, a brow that sits a little bit low, but it's a gentle resting expression, you know? I'm looking at this animated sequence screenshot in the top right, and I'm just getting such a strong vibe that he has like this warmth about him. And I feel like a character with really thin eyebrows, I feel like that takes a little bit away from the warmth. I feel like if you want, like, you know how when you see like villain characters or kind of like coldly confident characters, you're gonna see that like very fine, sharp feature to kind of like echo that personality in a visual styling sense. Well, that doesn't seem like him, so I feel like why not, you know, use his eyebrows to give him a little bit more of that softness. Another thing that tends to be the same in these types of like anime manga styles, like unless it's like a particular you know, show or game where like they just really make a point of having different like body types and features, you're also gonna see like it's really common for everyone to have the same neck. And it might seem like not a very significant, like, oh, why are you focusing on the neck, you know? But like, I don't know, I see like when people draw from the sort of like how to draw manga model references, like there's 3D models, right? And those are awesome, like as a resource. But I would never want to just like, I would never want to like trace on top of them personally, because I really treasure the opportunity to give like interesting variety in like the proportions of a character and the anatomy. Like there's so much variety in people in real life, and although I'm not really drawing in a realism style, I do think that there's a little bit of a naturalistic attitude in the way I approach characters. Like I want there to be variety, and I feel like Reinhard has a thicker neck. I feel like he's a big, sturdy fellow, as Rune Factory bachelors go. He still doesn't look like big, like, you know, Bado or Volcanon or Douglas, but he, as far as the bachelors go, he's big and sturdy in that realm. Like he's still supposed to like read as a pretty young man, so it kind of makes sense that they didn't give him like really blocky proportions. But he's not a wafy guy, you know. So he's a little bit built. He's, you know, obviously his profession and his lifestyle is very physical, so I want to give sort of like a nod to that in his design, being a little bit more specific. And I do want to give him like a little bit of a, you know, like a visible bridge to the nose, a little bit of structure up here. I think that is so appealing. Like, I like that stuff. Now I feel like the mouth is crooked. That's the danger of drawing like a tilted head, is you're just eventually you're gonna be like, hey, wait a minute. I tricked myself with this perspective. Give him like a same thing, like in the visual style of Rune Factory, like the sort of doll-like characters. They're funny. They like fall into these different categories for me. Like there's the very doll-like characters of the bachelors and bachelorettes. They do feel like they're kind of drawn on the same base model, and like they're, you know, they got kind of like a recipe for these characters, and they're pretty shy about straying from that. And I want to just break that a little bit. I like finding like kind of the limit of like how far can I push this and still have it feel like it fits with this character? Like how much can we extrapolate here? I'm gonna give him a little bit of structure to his nose. Like, I want it to be like, well, you can tell when this guy is older, he's gonna have like, you know, he's gonna have that history, that visible history in his face, but like, you're seeing this sort of early markers of it. The, you know, the strength, the structure, the overall like character in there. I still feel like we got it more so in the profile. There's something kind of missing. Maybe the eyes are still too low. It's very tricky. Like, this is a very slow process for me, and I'm kind of a slow drawing, slow painting artist anyway. But like, I definitely feel like I take my time while I'm like really figuring out how to draw a character. But once I feel pretty familiar and pretty confident in like how I'm drawing that character, it goes faster. But this is literally just me taking the first steps of like, this is the first time I've drawn him. And I'm like really trying hard to figure out, you know, I'm doing that groundwork, I think is how you'd say it. Okay. And I do really like to focus on the head without hair to begin with. I don't want to lean on the hair for likeness. I want the face to be its own, you know, aspect. I want the face to stand on its own with a character. I don't want it to feel kind of cheap. You know, like, oh, you know, he's the blonde one or whatever. But other than that, you don't know how to describe him. Give him a little bit more jaw here. As we previously mentioned, he has a slightly more angular, like, face shape than other Rune Factory characters. It's so subtle. You know, they do differentiate between these characters. I think if you were familiar with them, like if I think about the Rune Factory 4 characters, like if they showed you them without costume, without hair, I think you would still be able to tell the difference. But it's subtle, you know? It's like you maybe wouldn't guess it if you weren't already kind of familiar. So the interpretation of it is also subtle, and it just, I don't know, it just takes me a while. And maybe, I don't know, maybe this isn't the best, this type of work isn't the best stream material. I'm not sure yet. I'm still pretty new to this, but it's just kind of what I was in the mood for tonight, so we're giving it a try. He looks like he has that calm vibe to him, you know, like he's young, but there's something in his personality, maybe something in his history that motivates him to be like, to just like assess the situation, you know, like he doesn't just charge in with whatever his first like emotional response to something is. He seems like a even keeled is the sort of vibe I'm getting from his character imagery and his introduction and stuff like that. And I want to incorporate that. I want to represent that. And like I said earlier, You know, we might find out when the game comes out that they just kind of wanted you to see him that way, but then it turns out he's like kind of all over the place. You know, really helter-skelter kind of guy, and he's just sort of got a front of being really put together. And maybe that's what it'll turn out to be. I don't know. Like, anything could happen. It's something I really appreciate about the Rune Factory. Really appreciate about the Rune Factory writing is like they do still care about making their characters appealing to a wide audience, but they're more daring about their character decisions than a lot of other games, a lot of other properties, you know? Like, I feel like Harvest Moon is super duper gun shy about having their characters have, you know, interest and variety and depth. And part of that just comes with the, you know, you're trying to appeal to the greatest variety of people. You kind of go with these sort of safe traits that have like worked in the past, or like they're just like kind of basic, and you're like, well, yeah, everybody's gonna like that because it's super basic, and like we know it works and it appeals to people. And you know, that's important for a game. Like, I'm not really knocking them for going that route, because you know, they need their as much of their player base as possible to really like these characters. And I'm kind of I'm probably not their typical idea of their player base. You know, I have something of a jaded palette for characters in games because I'm a little bit older, and definitely older than the original target audience for Harvest Moon, right? And I don't know, just kind of like hungry for like deeper character exploration and like slightly more interest. And you know, I like those quirky Rune Factory characters. I like that they're not like perfect, you know. I like that they're kind of weird and they kind of screw up sometimes, and they're, you know, they got all these strange attributes, but like their community accepts them anyway. Like, I love that. I think it's really special. And I'm really excited to see, you know, what the surprises are character-wise in Rune Factory 5. Like, what's that gonna look like? I feel like this hair clump is not quite right. It's also just kind of like, kind of comical, kind of silly to me, how much like getting every freaking clump of hair the right shape and angle, like it matters, you know? In this type of style, it makes a big difference for likeness, so I gotta pay attention to it. I just feel like this whole area is kind of offset from what it's supposed to be. And you know, I've gone to a lot of trouble to make sure I feel like the face itself stands alone, like, can stand alone, I mean. Like, it makes sense without the hair. You don't need the hair to identify this person, is my hope. But at the same time, I don't want the hair to detract from the reference, you know? I still want it to be like, oh yeah, that is his, you know, that's his hair. It's definitely him. I want to respect that aspect of the character design, because it has meaning too, you know? Like, you know, we can laugh all day long about goofy anime hair character design choices, but in the end, they're using the hair, which is not in any way realistic. Like, you would not really see, you'd not be like likely to see this exact like shaping and stuff in real life, but that's okay because they're using it as a visual tool to another lever to pull to express this character's personality, and that's great. It's like, gotta take that into account when you're thinking about a visual art style for characters. It's like, it's not always about utility, it's not always about like practicality, and as silly as it might look in that context of utility and practicality, it's there for a reason, you know, and that reason is expression of the character, of the attitude, you know? And we can value that. At the same time, we chuckle about it. Really strongly advocate the idea of, like, you know, thinking critically about the media you consume, and like, you can enjoy it and like take it apart and put it back together And all of that, like, doesn't preclude, like, valuing it, right? You don't have to love every aspect of something to value it. And you don't have to. It's okay to still like something if it's not perfect or if it does a couple things kind of wonk. You're never gonna find anything that's perfect. So if you have that standard, guess you're not gonna like anything in the long term. Here's that fluffy collar again. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna kind of build downward from this collar area, which sometimes can get me into trouble just working from like the top to the bottom. But I'm not gonna have this go down too far, so I think it should be okay in this case. It's Jinjo! Welcome, Jinjo. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like how his face is looking. Yes, thank you. That's totally what I'm going for, is just like incorporating a little bit of that realism and giving him kind of like recognizable, somewhat naturalistic facial features, but it still feels true to what and like that's my jam. That's what I'm all about here, is like trying to interpret these kind of like quick production kind of visual styles and like extrapolate them. That's my catnip. So I'm really glad you're enjoying the outcome here. Oops, those are way too high up. Still, I mean, I've really only been using Clip Studio during these streams so far, just because like I'm usually just on my iPad, you know, and I work at my computer, so I really appreciate having that option to kind of get away from my desk and have my body in a different posture, which helps because you get kind of stiff and sore working at a computer in the same kind of posture all day. And then if you go and do more activities, which I have been anyway, because I started playing Genshin Impact, and I'm kind of really, really into it right now, so I am spending more time than ideally I would at my computer desk. So I haven't really been spending a lot of time with Clip Studio, except in the streams, because I like being able to do art away from my desk. Computer desk when possible. Oh boy, these shoulder thingies. Oh, they're just so much. They're just so much. Oops. Maybe I'll just kind of trail off here. Like leave it at that. The amount of that detail. See, look here, like it's interesting, the scale, the exact detail right underneath his collar is different in all three of these images. So that's what I'm saying, is like there does tend to be some discrepancy, and you have to make a choice about, you know, what you're going to draw, what you're going to adhere to. So I tend to, you know, lean a little bit toward the in-game model, because again, that's the one you're going to be spending like a whole lot of time with as you play the game. But I try to have an eye out for that concept art too, because I feel like that has you know, you're seeing a little bit of the original intent with the character design and a little bit of that unfiltered intent, because it hasn't passed through the machine, you know, the production machine yet. We are going to kind of incorporate a little bit of both, I think. Jinjo, I was mentioning earlier in the stream about how I gradually realized that big frickin' fluffy collars are just a thing across like many Rune Factory characters. Like, I just happen to draw Bato so much and be like, well, yeah, they put a fluffy collar on this guy, so I draw that all the time. And then, like, as I'm drawing more characters, more different characters, I'm like, wait a minute, they just put these on everybody. I mean, like I said earlier in the stream, I am not complaining. I like drawing them. I like what they look like. I like imagining the feeling of wearing a big fluffy collar. All of this is good to me. But I just had a chuckle when I realized that this is like a constant. Like, why do all these different people have fluffy collars? Got the Overwatch Greeble design language in your drawings. It's just embedded in your brain now, Jinjo. Just drawing it on reflex. That's awesome. I mean, you gotta watch out for that stuff, right? Like, if I am not careful, if I just sort of relax and let my eyes unfocus a little bit, everybody suddenly has a big angular nose. It's like my on reflex drawing super sculptural structured noses. And I'm like, wait. I want to be deliberate, you know? I may appreciate those types of noses best, but I do want to be conscious of, is this supposed to be on this character? These spikies on his shoulders are really, like, intriguing to me. Like, his armor is a really interesting blend of influences here. But there's just one detail, like his little, they're like overlapping plates on his sides and his thighs, and then these shoulder pieces are this dark reflective metal, and they have like this kind of sharp angular thing. Like, what are they trying to tell us with this design element? Is this like he has sort of like a, you know, slightly more aggressive or like a dark side thing happening here? I don't know. Like, nothing about his face or the rest of his costume suggests it, but just these little fangies on his shoulder. I'm very curious. The pauldrons look like Pokemon. Yeah, I could see it. Like, kind of like the inanimate object style Pokemon designs. Like, it's just gonna open up an eyeball and ask for a treat. No joke, I did that dumb thing. I picked up like a paper sketchbook yesterday while I was playing with my daughter and like waiting for her because she was doing the thing that kids will sometimes do where she's just like, you know, I'm just gonna stay in the bath for an hour if you let me. And just play with toys in the bath for an hour solid. And I was like, okay. Well, at about minute 45, I was like, I'm gonna just sketch a little bit. And I like drew like 2 lines and then immediately tapped 2 fingers on the paper like I was in Procreate trying to do undo, and I was just like, there it is. I forgot how paper works. Guess I am a little too used to being a digital artist. Like, I think about that sometimes. I think about that sometimes as far as, I know in abstract that I used to draw exclusively on paper. That there was a time in my life before I was constantly drawing everything digitally. But damn, is it hard to, like, really, like, connect to those memories as if, like, that's not now, right? It's been so long. Just have really different habits now. Alright, I am really liking this. Feeling good about this. I think we went from, like, stumbling around completely. Like, this one in the lower right is just nothing. It's just so generic and not really figuring it out yet. And then I did this profile, because sometimes it's easier for me to start to get a grip on what I'm doing when it's the profile. And now I've got this nice, mostly front, slightly 3/4 thing. And I really like it. I think it's good. So I think I'm gonna try and slap a little color on there. Make a layer underneath. Oh yeah, Jinjo, cafe sketches. My version of that, because, I don't know, I guess I'm cheap and I didn't want to buy coffee or pastries, is just like loitering around in the library when I was going to the university, or, yeah, just milling around in public places and sitting down and just drawing people. I found that at the university libraries, you could always find somebody asleep on a table. Like, you know, drooling into a textbook or something. And those people, you know, they're holding still for you. You can just sit there and draw them. Oh yeah, going to the zoo and drawing people. Yeah, that's so funny because, like, I always go to the zoo and really focus on drawing the animals, but that's a pretty darn good idea because the people are like super focused on what they're looking at. And absolutely, they would totally, you know, crane their neck and like lean or like pick up their kid or squat down and like look really close at the glass. There's bound to be like a lot of good like pose material in there. I recently bought like a really nice set of photography on Gumroad from Howard Lyon, I think. I haven't used it yet! Like a dingus. Like, I spent money on these photos to use them for like art and studies and just forgot for like 6 weeks. But I remembered recently, so I need to bust those out. And oh, you know what? I was supposed to be coloring and I just continued to sketch. Okay. Yeah, I need to go re-download those and actually do some drawings from those frickin' photos I bought. Yes, I agree. Studies always feel like you did something, right? Because, like, you're making, like, trying to, like, work out some original content, or, like, even fan art content, it's like, it may or may not work out. But when you've got the study and everything is right in front of you and your task is just to, like, absorb it and learn from it and, like, recreate it, like, it's so unambiguous. It feels so good. Like, there's, like, some assurance to it. Fan art content is hella underappreciated because it's transformative, so it can be so exhausting. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree, especially when you have like a very different style from the source material and you're translating it. I mean, that's the good stuff, right? That's what I'm here for. That's what is so exciting to me about doing fan art. But at the same time, yeah, it consumes some mental battery for sure. It's a like a there's like somewhere in my brain there's equations going on. I don't know what they are. I don't know what they would look like. But my brain's doing some kind of horsepower stuff when I draw these types of things. Okay, I know I said it like 3 times, but for real, I am now going to attempt to put color on this guy. And I'm feeling lazy, so I'm just gonna color pick this. I'm gonna color pick each one of these and see how they differ. Because of course, you know, my 3 references have to all be different. I feel like I've landed at a good place with this. Like, I mean, I said that already. I've been saying the same things over and over again. But I feel like I like this sort of wide nose that has like the beginnings of like a structural bridge to it, but he still looks youthful. I like the width of the face and the thickness of his neck. I like the eyebrows. Feeling good about this. I really hope that when this game comes out and I meet this character in the game, that I like love him, because it would be really fun to just get obsessed and draw him a lot. I like most of the character design. I mean, I actually like pretty much all of them, but I like like in a general sense. But I like most of them well enough to be like, yeah, I'd romance that. Like, I'd romance that character. So like, I guess I'm gonna have to split my file like 10 times or something. But it's pretty nice, cause like in Rune Factory 4, there's like you know what? To this day, I still have never married anyone in Rune Factory 4. I just haven't done it. I don't have any files where. I mean, I think I might. You know what? I don't know. I think I might have done it just to see the cutscene at one point, but then I didn't continue that file. I went right back to the file where I wasn't married. So like all my like ongoing files that I play, I'm not married. Which stinks, because one of the items in the game that I really want to craft requires an item that you can only get behind that door that you have to go through with your family, like when you're married. So I'm like, ah, dang it. I really wanted to go through like the whole crafting tree and like really dig into that. But I've been locked out. But I feel like this will not be a problem in Rune Factory 5. Like, the most of the guys and all of the girls, with the possible exception of Fuka, not because of her herself, but because of like the context of her character and like depending on how she's handled in the writing, I might be a little cheesed off. But yeah, basically all the girls and almost all the guys, I'm just like, well, I mean, if we're just basing on character design, I'm into it. I'm for it. Like, I'd marry that. But you never know. Like, things can turn out differently. Like, I was really interested in Dillis before I played the game and romanced him and like got all the way to his like marriage proposal event. And I was like, no. Hell no. I'm not marrying you. This sucked. Like, I was so mad. Like, it just did not jive with me. And like, I can see why other people would be fine with it and why they would like it, but for me personally, I was just like, nope. And then after that, I was like super jaded, and I was like, I'm not marrying none of y'all. And of course, you can't marry Bato, so I was just like, oh well, just keep him in my party forever and run around like a doof. They're all winners. I hope my character is deserving of marriage. Lest is a buffoon, and every woman is too good for him. I love this idea. Your Lest canon is beautiful. As soon as I started dating Forte and there was a intimately feed her scene, I was like, no. That is so funny, Jinjo. I love that. I've never actually, like, I always intended to do a playthrough as Les so that I could see Forte's, like, marriage stuff because she's my favorite of the Rune Factory 4 girls, but I just cannot play as Les. I don't know what the deal is. Every time I start a file with them, I'm like, oh no, I can't do it. Being Jinjo Lest is a fucking disaster. He's a woolly in a boy's suit. Oh gosh. I love your occasional Jinjo Lest arts and comics. I would consume infinity number of those, to tell you the truth. They're so funny. I love his just like disaster man attitude in your work. It's beautiful. I mean, like, a lot of times the main character of a game like this really has main character syndrome, right? Like, I like that they have personality. I do. But at the same time, I'm just like, a lot of times I'm like not totally on board with it. I love Frey though. I think her personality is great. Hunted piece of toast. Haunted piece of toast. Wow, you draw man pretty. He looks very fine. Thank you. I am so happy you think so. I've been working hard on getting his face like just the way I want it, so I'm really glad that you immediately enjoyed that. Yeah, this is my jam. This is my flavor. I'm like really excited about it. Like, I was so tired. I was like on the verge of being like, should I stream tonight? But I had already posted this morning that I would, and I was like, well, I gotta stand by what I said. And also, streaming and like chatting with you guys and just doing this kind of like character interpretation stuff is like, oh, it's so fun. It actually like, it gives me energy. I'm feeling like better than I was before, so this is good. This is good times. Yes, first thought, hot man face. Good. Yes, that's what we're all here for, am I right? Like, that's what I'm here to provide. I'm being very lazy tonight and just color picking my reference, which I don't normally do because I like to try and give myself the practice of, you know, kind of finding my own colors. If we were talking about like real world painting, it'd be mixing your own colors, but in digital it's kind of weird. Maybe I should treat it more like mixing colors, but I just haven't really found a software that behaved in a way that made sense to me as far as the mixing of colors goes. So I mean, actually that's a lie. I technically liked the color mixing in PaintStorm Studio, but it was like the only thing about that software I liked. I should probably give it another go. You know, like, there's always that bit of inertia at the beginning. Like, you try a new software and you're just like, oh god, it's different and I'm so slow in it. There's like a lot to overcome when you're just trying something new like that. So I should probably give it another go. But I can only handle one new painting software at a time, and I've chosen Clip, so sorry, PaintStorm. Maybe someday. I mean, I haven't been too daring with this guy's face. You know, this is like still a very like conventionally appealing face. So part of me is like, come on, Marvelous. You couldn't do this much? Like, you couldn't give him like a little bit of a wider nose? You couldn't give him like thicker eyebrows? Come on. Come on. You could do it. You could do it for us, couldn't you? It's still very appealing. This is still like, would still see this guy in like a band, you know. He might not be the guy in the middle of the boy band or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. I don't personally. I mean, you don't really have to move the nose around much in the animation. I guess maybe the anime noses are really tiny to just get them out of the way of the humongous eyes and mouth. Like when they emote, sometimes their mouth gets really big. So maybe that's why. Maybe they're just trying to like make room. But I am constantly like, come on, dude, just give him a nose. Just give him a nose like that you can see. It's not just like a speck. Yes, no room. Where's the giant like? Okay, wait, hang on. I have to make a new layer and draw something stupid real quick. I just gotta do it. It's like you have some thing with these. It's just basically an emoji at this point. But you're gonna have like you know, like one of these moments in the show. Where are you gonna put that nose? I mean, like you could put like you could make a big nose, but then it's gonna be like overlapping the eyes, and if you just want to be able to cut the eyes out and put them on the sprite, so they just make the nose like that, and then it's not getting in anybody's way. Okay, this thing's freaking me out. I gotta delete it. It was not cute. It's interesting, this quote-unquote oil paint brush. I like it, but I talked about this in my last stream, but it is super not oil paint. It's more like what I feel like the default round brush should be in most digital art software, but it's not read oil paint to me. It's like too round, too smooth. But I love it. I'm not knocking it. I'm using it, obviously. But it's like, I don't know why they call it oil paint. It's kind of strange. It doesn't really have any texture per se. It does mix on the surface, so it's like, it feels like wet in a way. Wet paint on a wet canvas. A little bit. But at the same time, it's just like, I don't know, there's no brush strokes. You're not really like getting a sense of like build up. You're just sort of like smooshing around. And that to me is like, oil paint is all about build up, so. I don't know, it's sort of weird to me. Not really sure what their angle is with that. Oh yeah, okay. Gotta remind ourselves, this man has, you know, a dash of Yu-Gi-Oh hair. He's got these orange highlights for no particular reason. They don't really go with anything else in his character design, except I guess his eyes are kind of orange. Which we're gonna need a layer on top because I kind of filled in the area for the irises when I drew him. Orange eyes, that's cool, I'm into it. The orange hair thing is bizarre, but I have overlooked more bizarre things for the sake of a fictional husbando. Hey, Nugget! His name is Reinhard. I mean, it should be Reinhardt, but it's Reinhard. Like, that's the way it's written in the wiki, or like the character release info, and I find it very funny. I'll probably continue to giggle about it like an idiot when the game comes out. Reinhard. Right? Like, this is just They're just baiting us with this name for dumb, horny jokes. Always I am torn, because, like, I mean, I shouldn't worry too much because, like, the Fire Emblem fandom has been, like, super chill, which just surprises me because it's so big. I always think of big fandoms and, like, think of the, you know, the drama. So, I love the Rune Factory fandom because it's, like, small enough that everybody kind of knows everybody, it feels like, or at least have seen each other around, and there's, like, this sense of, like, oh, yeah, well, people are pretty much decent to people because everybody knows everybody. Like, you don't have as much of a sense of, like, total anonymity and disconnection in a crowd. So I always come back to this stuff, like, sometimes I really want to, like, draw stuff that's part of something that might have a wider reach, but the Rune Factory fandom is just the chillest, most wonderful place, so I just keep coming back. Drawing these guys more. Oh, you know what? I've totally been drawing on top of the drawing. Whoopsie! Oh well, that can just be orange layer. Jinjo, I am so sorry to have misled you. I am not drawing Reinhard from Overwatch. I maybe should sometime because he is excellent, but it is not this day. Yeah, what the heck, dude? You are totally in my request club. You need to just request Reinhardt. Remind me, and we will make it so. I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. He is exactly my my jam. Yeah, thinking about it now, it's super weird that I have never drawn him. I mean, I was never like, I don't know if I ever drew Overwatch fan art, so I guess it's not that weird. But, like, if I was gonna draw a Overwatch character, he'd be the one, Absolutely. It's okay. It's okay to be shy with requests. I know it's kind of like a weird thing in a way, and I like, to tell you the truth, I sometimes get really, like, nervous about them. I'm like, oh god, am I doing enough of them? And then, like, I, like, just do a string of requests with, like, no heed to whatever I would want to draw, and then I feel terrible and, like I have oppressed myself or something. And then I have, like, a sort of a inner turmoil, and then I draw something that I want to draw. And it's like this weird cycle. But I used to do requests just generally, like, on Twitter and stuff like that. And a lot of times I would find that, like, people who followed my artwork and, like, were into the same thing as me would make requests, and it was really fun. Like, they get so excited and, like, just really enjoy the result of it and stuff like that. And that was just really fulfilling and, like, really fun. But then, inevitably you also get, like, and it's like, of course, you're offering a request, so you're gonna get this. This is totally, like, expected stuff. But some totally random person is requesting something that's outside of any fandom you've even heard of, and you're like, okay, I'll try it. That's fine. But then, like, if they don't really, like, respond to it, I kind of feel weird, like, what, did I do it wrong? Like, I get so self-conscious. So, I really like doing requests for patrons. Like, it's a good model, because, like, it's never a drive-by. This person is, like, in here, they want to support my work, they enjoy what I do. It feels, so much more, like, fun and rewarding to do requests for patrons than to just kind of do randoms. Draw him and Volcanon holding hands. They're basically brothers. You're not wrong. Absolutely. Just 100%. I mean, like, He's just a character archetype, so I won't like worry about trying to figure out what came first, although my memory is that Rune Factory came out long before Rune Factory 4 came out long before Overwatch, but it doesn't really matter because he's just like floating around in the consciousness. Volcanon is just an older, hairier Major Armstrong from Full Metal Alchemist, right? Like, it's just a type by now, and I'm for it. I'm here for it. Just go ahead and have that trope in every game, every show. I will appreciate. Yes, old foxy men who are extravagant and emotional. There you go. Just send a letter to every, you know, game studio and be like, you are now required. For every snack witch, for every, like, foxy witch character who may or may not have anything to do with witchcraft or magic, you must also have a Volcanon for me. I was actually thinking about, like, I saw somebody post online, they were making Genshin Impact OCs, and I was like, I'm gonna have to do that eventually, aren't I? Because there just isn't. And who the cuss knows if they're actually gonna put the, like, there's one sounds kind of like, honestly it sounds more like the Admiral from Monster Hunter World, or like a little bit like All Might kind of character, and they've kind of like teased him in the lore, and so like maybe someday they'll add that in, and that would be great. But I don't know, maybe I'll just make one up. I get nervous about the idea of making OCs, but I'm also like for self-indulgence, so you'd think I would have done it more. I will say that even though I am hoarding my currency in Genshin Impact like a madwoman, in the anticipation that maybe someday they will add a beef character, which is just a hypothetical, so it is kind of insane. But even though I am doing that, I honestly feel like what I'm gonna enjoy most about the game is just like exploring. I love sandbox games. I love just getting distracted out in the wilderness when I'm supposed to be doing some quest. It's really good, and it's super beautiful. Like, it's like, in a nutshell, it's like the Breath of the Wild world and look, only better. I'm not even shy about saying that. Like, Breath of the Wild is Nintendo first party at its finest, and yet it just looks better in Genshin. It's so good. It's beautiful. The environments are so juicy. It's like got great like saturation, but it's not like oversaturated and clashy. Like, it has great color harmony. It's just gorgeous. So into it. Kind of obsessed, like overnight. Nugget knows. You know what's funny is she's not a playable character, which is a crime, but there is one thick woman in Genshin Impact, and her name is Brooke, and she's confident and brazen, and I love her. And she's just some random NPC from like one quest where she's cooking. She's like the cook in this town, and she's like known for being like the best at cooking like meat and roasts and stuff like that. And I don't know. I think she's delightful because she's so like, yeah, what about it? Yeah, I'm the best at meat. It's so good. But yeah, only side characters, only side quests NPCs in Genshin can have, like, you know, they don't turn sideways and disappear. It's a bummer. You know what is a tricky business is putting a little bit of like color zones of the face action without making it look like a character is blushing. It is like a whole deal. It can be rather tricky. But you need it, otherwise they look like plastic doll. Really good. Adds a lot. Oh, I'm glad you guys are here. This is fun. It's so weird though. Like I'm like I was like I said I was like so tired and just like from the day, and now I have so much energy. I'm probably not gonna be able to sleep for a while. Nuggets over here that like, well then just log on to Genshin and let's do some quests. I already stayed up way too late playing last night. I need to be good. Oh boy. Making everyone blushy is fun. Like, absolutely. It's like the dessert layer, right? You like do all your drawing and you know, do the best you can. You make it look good. You do all the work, the hard work, and then you pop a new layer on there and you draw blush all over their face, and it's delightful. It is the cherry on top. Maybe we'll make a blushy version of this particular drawing. Oof, whoop, nope. Went a little too crazy with the sclera there. There you go. No, still don't like it. I'm gonna color pick, kind of like moosh that in there. Be careful with the whites of the eyes. You can really like jank up the vibe of your drawing if you don't do them. If you do them too bright, you know? Nope. You know what? I'm like realizing I'm not very zoomed in. I'm just holding my face like really close to the monitor like a ding dong. Zoom in. But that's actually probably a good thing because I've been trying to like remind myself not to paint while zoomed in at like 100% or more because like that can get you into trouble. Jinjo, that'd be awesome. I downloaded the mobile app, and then my phone was immediately like, I'm gonna puke! And so I was like, sorry, phone, I'll just delete it now. It's fine, don't worry about it. But I have my nice PC that's now repaired. I had to ship it to California for warranty repair, but they put new RAM and a new CPU into the thing. And so far, it's working good. So, I can play games. Historically, I'm not the type to have a good enough computer to play them newfangled video games. I always just play on like a console, specifically handheld consoles have been my favorite. But now I'm a PC gamer. At least, you know, some of the time. Sorry you don't have a... You know, your laptop's not strong enough for Genshin Toast. It'd be fun if we could all, like, you know, hang together. But I get you. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I will not play unless I can play it loafing around in bed. So, like, if it works on my phone or, like, the Nintendo Switch or on a tablet, I'm like, yes, excellent. I can't take my big desktop into my... Can't play that from the couch. I can't play it in bed. What's the point? Oh no. Did you record it? That kind of like really intense lag can be very funny. Go back to my top layer. And just do a little bit of shine on the hair. Whoops. Okay. I forgot that it does not blend with the layer underneath it for some reason. I wonder if that's a setting I can change. Hmm. I get this oil paint flat brush that has this, you know, maybe kind of feels like oil paint, but it's not right for what I'm doing right now. But I do want to try that later. Got to... Let me go back to this. Maybe I'll try one of these watercolor brushes and see what that's like for this purpose. Like, I feel like in this digital software, they're just saying watercolor because it's it's like semi-opaque. I have heard that there's some really good brushes for clip, and that the most recent version can actually just load ABR files, so you can just use whatever Photoshop brushes. But you know what? I never actually like... I stopped digital painting in Photoshop before I ever really found like a brush set that I was like really into. So I don't have any to import, so one of these days I gotta go try and figure out what kind of Clip Studio brushes I want to try out. Okay, so when you tried to play the opening scene of Genshin, it was like not even, it just was only sound. Oh my gosh. Yes, his hair is like it's like non-stop layers. It reminds me of when we tried to cut my daughter's hair for the first time. She's just a little squirmy toddler, so we were like, you know what? It doesn't matter what it looks like, it's fine. Like, we didn't take her to a haircut place because COVID, you know, we're trying to be very careful and like not go to places we don't necessarily need to go to. So we just did it at home, and it was janky as heck. And so I like accidentally put like these sort of like uneven layers in her bangs, and you know, she didn't care. She was just delighted that she could see. But it looked hilarious, and that's kind of what this reminds me of. He's got like so many different like lengths happening, and then there's this whole region over here that's like just laying flat. Don't worry about it. Like, what happened? I don't know, dude. I've been thinking about that like today and like recently. Like, why with anime hair it's like it just bears no resemblance whatsoever to like how hair behaves in reality. And I like was thinking about like what if there's like some stylist somewhere that's like, oh gosh, if one more person brings me like some anime hairstyle and it's like I want this, I'm gonna lose it. What if that really happens? Because like hair just doesn't do these things. This isn't real. But I do think that they're just kind of only had time to use the straightener on the right side. Yeah, it's gotta be it. You bet it happens. Oh gosh. I wonder if I was a hairstylist, I would reenact those or something, or somehow make YouTube content about that, I think. But I do think that the real answer, you know, all kidding aside, is they're using the hair as like a way to express some personality, so it's not really about having any, you know, relation to reality. It's more just like, you know, we just wanted to, you know, make sure that you understand this guy's not too formal. Look at all these layers. Look at his ruffly hair mess. Or something, you know, it's just like it's not there to be anything, but it's like high fashion, you know, like it's not there to be practical, it's not there to be utilitarian, it's there to be art. His hair is art. Insert Iron Giant meme here. I mean, it's kind of a mullet, isn't it? He has a mullet. It's just it's in a ponytail, so you can't tell. I'm still painting on the top layer, and I don't care. I'm like, alright, whatever, we're doing it. Oh man, there's a guy in Genshin Impact who has the longest rat tail mullet thing you've ever seen. Oh my gosh, I am just now noticing that the actual shapes on the pauldrons are totally different in all three of these references too. Well, this guy is like, the rat tail mullet is like so long. It's so long and so thin. There's just no other word for it, really. And that's what they called him when I was a kid, you know? Like, I don't know of any other appropriate word for this. Oh man, the colors are so different. Like, the color in this concept art for him is like almost like rose gold. And then like, but either way, it's too dark in my drawing. I'm gonna experiment with something a little lighter. I'm gonna go back to watercolor. It's gonna be too close to his skin tone. I did not establish enough like file structure in this drawing to be doing this much detail on the gold. Oopsie. His hair color in 2 ref pics is stale. I mean, kind of how it's like kind of a little bit more faded and washed out in the top 2. It does have a little bit more saturation in the concept art picture. It's like kind of a sandy blonde, I think is what they're going for, yeah? Once again, we will interpret. However we like. Just do some work on his little fangy pauldrons. I'm so curious about like this dude's like story or whatever. Like, just based on his costume alone, I'm very curious. Yeah, Toast, I could see what you'd say. Why you'd say that. It is really pale the way they've highlighted his hair. It's like kind of strange. I like the color of the highlight in the concept art quite a bit. It seems to sort of keep the tone of the hair. Nope, that's not where that was supposed to go. Lost focus for a minute there. I am feeling the tired again. Oops. Do this. Just gonna do some kind of... I'm trying to get comfortable with the sort of like quick and dirty style of just giving the impression and coloring. Ah, it's hard. My knee-jerk reaction is always to just render the crap out of everything. As you guys know about me. Jinjo, you'll slap my hand to make sure I don't overdo the gold. Okay, I'll stop. I'll stop. Just wait, just one more little thing over here. You know what? No, you're right. We're gonna go back. It was at a good place. Let's see if I can get a little bit of color zones in the face going. It's so subtle, you gotta be so careful with it. But it makes a lot of... For being such a subtle shift, it makes a lot of difference to the vibe of the drawing. Whoops! Wrong-o. Must have misclicked. Oh, it's still wrong. What's happening here? Is it picking up a incorrect color? What are you? That's the color it's supposed to be. There's just a lot of blend to this brush, I guess. I gotta go with something else. Even though I don't think they really resemble their namesakes very much, these brushes, I do like them. They are pretty much the best software default brushes I've ever used in like a drawing or painting software. I love Procreate, but you need custom brushes. I think the base brushes in Procreate are pretty like, not so much. Oops, nope, that's not it. There's a really strong difference between the blending behavior of these brushes, which I find really interesting. Kind of refreshing, actually. I don't know it well enough to predict it, which makes this a little bit of a chaotic process. But I am still enjoying it. Someday I'll get used to this software. I keep saying that. But I say it on like the same day, so it's like, yeah, dummy, you've been saying that. It's not today though. You're still really early on. Alright. So what I didn't do when I made these layers, so I never did create a sort of like overall gradient or like color shift thing. And it seems to just work a lot better when I do that. Like that's kind of part of the approach I've been trying to connect with recently and figure out. So I'm gonna kind of like retroactively noodle around with this with some adjustment layers. Just see what I can get out of that. I just really want some kind of transition. Even if it's just messy, I think it would be good to have. I did like one drawing. I think it was like pretty early this month, January, and I was like, one drawing that I was like, oh my god, I did it. This is the way I've been trying, like wanting to draw for so long. It's like not too rendered. It's very like, you know, still feels very rich. This is it. And I have not successfully replicated it yet. Yeah. The struggle. I don't want to go too ham with this, but it just kind of like feels right to have a little bit of, I don't know, aura. Am I drawing his aura? I don't know. Something alright. I'll scoot this around just a little bit. Oops. Don't know what I'm doing. Oh my god. I swear to god, this shortcut is gonna make me insane. There's a shortcut when you're like on a layer and you can totally like, there it is, like I'm doing it, but why couldn't I do it on that other layer? I don't understand. I'm now going to make that one from earlier invisible because it, if I can find it. Ah! Sucks the like overall image isn't balanced without it, but it's a garbage sketch. It was like a bad warm-up. Oh well, whatever. Sometimes you gotta get comfortable with your bad warm-ups, I guess. What's happening? Gonna move him down a little bit. Maybe it was when you're in hand mode? Nope, it sure ain't. This is like a select layer thing. Oh, I really don't know. I do not know the secrets. All right. You like how narrow they are in that earlier sketch? I felt like they weren't, they were reading like eyes that were painted on a convex surface. Like they don't read like they're in an eye socket to me, and it was bugging me so bad. I think I am gonna be, I'm gonna kind of like make a little sign-off note on this so I can use this whole screenshot. It's like a thanks for watching post on Twitter. And then I'm probably gonna be done. Maybe go to bed. I am dog tired, y'all. Love how I did the background on my more rendered piece. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I did that a little bit with the Aries piece from 2 weeks ago, or longer than 2 weeks ago, like a month ago. And I don't know. It kind of felt good. Like it's a little bit rainbowy, but I like it. So I might explore that some more. Thanks for hanging out with me, you guys. This has been really fun and really relaxing and like really, you know, untangled all my like stress of the day. It was just really, really nice. So thanks so much for being in here and chatting with me and participating and just enjoying this kind of like chilled out Rune Factory man sketching time. Yeah, you're welcome. You have a great night too, all of you. Nugget will play again soon. Jinjo, always good to hear from you. Toast, nice to meet you. Thank you for coming to my stream. Alright, you guys, you have a wonderful evening, and I hope to see you next time.